Thank you for joining us today for Cape Chronicle. I'm Audrey Kane. As winter rapidly approaches, your furnace and fireplace are safety concerns that Red Cross of Southeast Missouri Executive Director Sara Gerau is here to discuss, and how to keep your family safe. While you prepare your home for winter, the Missouri Department of Transportation is looking ahead to Ready the Roadways. Missouri Department of Transportation Southeast District Engineer Mark Shelton will explain just what that requires. And Southeast Missouri State University Dean of the College of Health and Human Services, Dr. Morris Jenkins, is looking for ways to encourage minority youth to get involved in both criminal and civil justice professions in our area, and how you can help. That's all ahead on Cape Chronicle.
Whether it's for business or just a getaway, Cape Air is your wings in the Midwest. Cape Air serves 6 destinations, including Kirksville, Quincy, Fort Leonard Wood, Cape Girardeau, Marion, and Owensboro. Fly from Cape Girardeau to St. Louis with fares starting at just $49 each way. With easy connections through Lambert St. Louis International Airport, Cape Air connects you to the Midwest and the world. Book today at capeair.com or call 800-CAPE-AIR and enjoy the ride.
Welcome to Cape Chronicle. I'm Audrey Kane. We're all ready to warm up with a roaring fire, or maybe just crank up the furnace, but Red Cross of Southeast Missouri Executive Director Sara Gerau has some pointers for us on home safety. Thank you for coming, Sara.
Thank you for having me.
So correct me if I'm wrong, home fires claim 7 lives a day in America.
Most people don't know that. It is the #1 disaster that the American Red Cross responds to. So we've been looking at that information, and last year the American Red Cross decided we've got to stop that. We've got to change that. That is just 7 individuals a day dying, and something that can be prevented. So that's when we've launched the Home Fire Preparedness Campaign. So we have taken upon ourselves to partner with organizations, and we're going into neighborhoods. We're partnering with the fire departments and high-risk areas, and we are installing free smoke alarms. We're not only installing those smoke alarms, we're checking batteries, we're making fire plans, because most people haven't even had that conversation. They just, it's not going to happen to me, I don't have time to worry about it, that type of thing. But we're going in and really having those discussions and talking to them, do you know what to do? Do you know that you only have 2 minutes to get out? Because, most people don't know that. They think they have a lot more time in order to get out. So it's getting in there, checking those smoke alarms, putting batteries in, making a plan, talking to the children. Do you have a safe place to go once you get outside? Because if you're in the front of the house and maybe the parents are upstairs or downstairs, where's that safe place to meet afterwards? So it's really about educating.
So you've been working with the local fire departments here in our area in Southeast Missouri.
Yes.
Okay, so very specifically, what are a couple of things that we can do to increase the safety in our home?
Right. It's just educating yourself on being smart. So you've talked about we're coming into our winter months. So people, it's getting cold. They're going to be maybe using a space heater. So we want to really, if you choose that form to heat your home, make sure you're being smart about it. Make sure you're plugging it directly into an outlet, not using extension cords. Another thing too is during the holiday season with Christmas lights, things like that, people get kind of creative the way that they are decorating, and so they're plugging in a lot of things to extension cords and then into a power cord. I mean, there's you could be very surprised on how people are plugging things in. So let's be smart about it. Let's be safe. We want to educate the children too, in the home, whether it's in the kitchen, stove, a lot of accidents and fires start in the kitchen. So let's talk about fire safety in there, about being very smart when you're cooking, that type of thing. With the winter months coming, we've noticed a lot of times here, people maybe want to use the oven to warm their home. They're using different means because, budgets are tight and they just don't want to use, the typical furnace, that type of thing. So they're trying to save money, but that is definitely, we highly recommend not doing that, because that's just not safe. And we just smart choices. We know we want to educate them on what it is to be safe, and so go in there, make sure that you're talking to your children, making sure you're using you know, just smart decisions and making sure you have those working smoke alarms. We're shocked them once we go in, they're like, well, I've been here 10 years, I've never changed a battery, I've never even tested it, or it kept going off every time I was cooking in the kitchen, so I just took it down. Well, now they've never replaced it. So, you know, and that's why we're excited that we're going in, we're partnering with the fire department, we're going in with other organizations, and we're installing and we're checking it, and we're making, if each home we can, you know, get one installed, and that's a potential to save another life. So that's huge.
So in addition to the smoke alarm, you mentioned children and having a plan. And so I'm assuming that you all have information on your website about how to plan in the event of a fire. So talking to the kids is one thing that you can do, but what are some of the other things that you do in that plan to get out in a fire?
So we want to talk about if the alarm goes off. So we talk about that 2 minutes. You want to get low, you want to go. You want to check a door if it's closed first. You want to feel around to see if it's hot. You know, educating the kids on what to do. Once they get through that first door, close it behind, because that's going to trap the fire if it's behind them. There's just a lot of different things we have. If you go to redcross.org, it'll talk about you know, ways to be safe, to make that plan. We talk about having, you know, shoes close to your bed when you go to bed at night, and that's for any type of disaster, because so many times when we reach out to our clients, they've run out in the middle of the night, they don't have shoes, you know, whether it's a fire, tornado, or whatever. So that's why we educate, just, you know, having shoes, slippers, something right beside your bed so you can put those on and go really quickly.
I'm smiling because most of the time my shoes are right by my bed.
See, that's smart.
Exactly. So go to redcross.org for information on how to not only prevent a fire, but how to escape in the event of a fire. And then fire is like you said, it's one of the primary reasons that people are in need in this country because of a fire disaster. How can we help others with their needs in a fire?
Well, with the Red Cross, what we do is we're there to meet those immediate needs. So when that fire happens, we're going to get there to make sure they have a safe place to go, that they have food, they have clothing, that they have shelter. You know, sometimes it's simple as they don't have a toothbrush because they ran out in the middle of the night. And so we're able to do that based on donations that are given to the American Red Cross. So, and that's why we're able to provide those services to individuals.
So if you want to give, going to redcross.org is one method.
Absolutely.
You have an 800 number?
1-800-RED-CROSS. You can donate that way. You can also, like you said, go on redcross.org or on our Facebook page. You can also donate that way. And another great way, some people aren't able to financially help, but we need volunteers. That is the way that the Red Cross is. We are so grateful for our volunteers, because that's the way we're able to provide those services. When we get the call, if it's in the middle of the night, those are volunteers that are responding. They're the ones going out, making sure that those clients have a safe place to go, a warm place to go, a hug, that reassurance, that type of thing. And those are volunteers. So you can do that as well on redcross.org.
And you all have a location here in Southeast Missouri. What is your address?
Our address is 2430 Myra Drive here in Cape Girardeau, and we we're the Southeast Missouri chapter, and there's 13 counties here in Southeast Missouri and Southern Illinois that we represent.
So if someone has a need, they can contact you all directly.
Absolutely.
To get assistance?
And that's 573-335-9471.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Sarah, for coming in today. Very informative. Redcross.org, though, the link to all of the information that we've talked about today. Very informative. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We've been talking with Home Fire Safety with Executive Director Sara Gerau of the Red Cross of Southeast Missouri. On the way next, your messy winter roadways are MoDOT's priority, and District Engineer Mark Shelton is on the way to discuss them. Stay tuned for more of Cape Chronicle.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Buzzed, busted, and broke, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
When you're out there, there's no telling what you'll find.
I see it! I see it!
Wow, look at you.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
It's going to be hard work, but you've never let that stop you. At Southeast Missouri State, we put that will to do to work for you. You won't just learn in lectures. You'll get your hands dirty, your skills strengthened, and whatever you do, you won't be going it alone. You can do this because you earn everything you get, and what you'll earn here will pay off out there.
Welcome back to Cape Chronicle. Your vehicle may be due for new tires or some antifreeze for the impending winter, but what about the roads you'll be driving? Missouri Department of Transportation Southeast District Engineer Mark Shelton is here to tell us what they are doing to keep us all safe. Mark, thanks for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me this afternoon. I appreciate it.
You bet. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but Missouri has over 34,000 miles of state highways.
We do. We have 34,000 miles of state highway. That is actually the 7th largest state highway system in the nation.
And we're not even the largest state.
No, we're not at all.
All right, so total winter operations must be hefty as far as the money goes for
It
the
really is. We spend statewide on average around $47 million a year just on snow removal.
Oh, wow. Okay, so in tons, say, we're talking tons in salt, right?
Right.
How much do we have to purchase in salt each year?
You know, statewide, we keep on hand 220,000 tons of salt, and here locally in the district, we have about 22,000 tons of salt. And it's interesting, we paid like $71 a ton for our salt, so if you run the math on that, that's a lot of money. Probably the most interesting fact about the salt is that's about 50% more than what we would pay for a ton of hot mix asphalt or that much concrete to use on the roadway. So that's the real deal with salt. It costs a lot of money and its useful life is pretty short.
Is it more, I guess it depends on what the conditions are as to whether the salt or the brine is what's called for.
Well, it really is, and we watch the forecast and the temperatures, and every storm is like an individual. They all have a little different personalities, and actually just a degree or two difference in the temperature can really make the difference between a non-event and a disaster.
So you all watch the forecast pretty closely. I bet you've probably made a few friends with meteorologists.
We actually watch multiple forecasts during the wintertime. We have a service that we subscribe to. Certainly we keep up with the National Weather Service, both out of Paducah, out of Springfield, and also out of St. Louis. And we take that information locally and try to warp it in, if you will, to the best guess of when the weather's going to come in.
So readying for those storms, what all does that entail? Because of course you're watching the forecast, but what else does the department have to do to get ready for those storms? You
know, one of the first things that we're doing actually is going to take place next week. It's our winter operations drill. We're going to take a day next Wednesday, November the 4th, and we're going to hook the plows up to our trucks and have our workers drive through the routes that they plan to drive. That gives us an opportunity to measure the lengths of routes if anything's changed. That gives us the opportunity for newer employees that aren't used to driving a truck with a snowplow on the front of it. That gives us an opportunity to make sure all of our equipment is in good working condition. So when that first snowflake comes, we won't be trying to fix things before we get out the gate.
Exactly. Don't wait till the last minute. So speaking of employees, about how many employees is required to maintain the roads in the wintertime? You know,
statewide we've got 3,500 employees that focus on plowing snow when it snows. Locally in southeast Missouri, we've got 550 employees that we use to clear the roads during a winter event.
So how, speaking of the roads, how do you prioritize what's cleared? Because I know that people that live outside of the city are dependent on Missouri Department of Transportation to take care of them. So how is that prioritized as far as what gets cleared first?
You know, we do it, really, it's basically a traffic volume down type approach. We are committed to working round the clock, 24 hours a day, until our major roads, our interstates, our Kings highways, our Route 34, Route 32, until those are nearly clear. There may be a ribbon of snow on them, but they'll be nearly clear. And then all of our other routes, we will have been over them, plowed all the loose snow off, got those treated, especially in the hills and curves. And then it's really time for us to go off of 24-hour-a-day operations, because those middle of the nights when the temperature's in the low teens and single digits, we really don't do any good as far as removing that final bit of snow. So we'll come back the next day with the sunshine, get a little help from Mother Nature, and try to clean things up during regular working hours.
So after that happens, what do the employees do once you've moved into that post-storm phase? What are the employees up to at that point?
When we're in the post-storm phase, certainly, like I said, our employee, we're in our trucks and plowing until we get the roads to the condition that we want. After a storm and after we've got things cleaned up, well, then we've got some equipment and stuff to clean up. We've got to get our equipment cleaned up and make sure that it's in working order for the next storm, because snow removal takes a toll on our equipment, as you might imagine. So we wash everything up and get the salt off the truck. We clean things up. We make sure everything's lubricated, and we're ready to go the next time it snows.
So are there specific teams, because you were mentioning the employees, are there specific teams that work in specific areas of the state?
You know, we have our maintenance buildings that are in a variety of locations, and that's their primary focus during a storm. But statewide, we take a one-team approach to snow removal, because there are times when it's snowing in southeast Missouri, but not in northwest, or not in northeast Missouri. And there'll be folks that come and help us. There's times when we may need to dispatch some workers to St. Louis or to central Missouri to help out in those areas if the storms stay north of us. You know, it would be my preference if most of the storms just stayed north of us this winter.
That would be my preference as well. I work in radio, and when we're on the air, we often check the traveler.modot.org site. You guys try to keep that updated pretty regularly so people know where they can go and where they can't in a winter storm? We do.
Go to our website, www.modot.org, and there's the winter weather information there. And it's a live map, and it's color-coded to let those that use that know what the condition that the roadways are in. There's also some cameras that we have on the interstate, and an individual, you can click on those icons and actually get a live view of what the interstate section looks like. That's available also as an app for your smartphone. So go out in the App Store and type in MoDOT, and you can find that. Of course, it's a free download, and then you can have your winter weather road condition information with you all the time.
Well, Mark, thank you so much for coming by. That winter weather map's going to come in handy. All good information. We've been talking winter roadways with Missouri Department of Transportation Southeast District Engineer Mark Shelton. Thanks, Mark. Next up on Cape Chronicle, Dr. Morris Jenkins from Southeast Missouri State University going to be sharing some goals to attract minority youth into the professions involved in our justice system. Stay tuned.
This is the moment I knew his future had no boundaries.
There are some moments only the forest can inspire. Find yours at discovertheforest.org.
Here's your check. Oh, you got it. You know, since I got rid of my car, I really enjoy walking.
Okay. Got it. No.
Getting pulled over for buzz driving could cost you around $10,000 in fines, legal fees, and increased insurance rates.
Oh, you're home early.
You live with your mom?
That'll set your game back a few years. Buzzed, busted, and broke. Because buzz driving is drunk driving.
At Southeast Missouri State, we know some of the best lessons are learned outside of class. We understand sometimes you meet your lifelong friends on the intramural fields and make great connections with alums from your fraternity. So if you learn more about why it's important to take a stand in student government than poli-sci, or if seeing art in Europe makes a bigger impact than seeing it in a textbook, then you're already learning one of life's biggest lessons. Living and learning can't be separated.
This is Cape Chronicle, and I'm Audra Kane. The minority youth of today still face many of the same barriers that their parents and grandparents faced, and Southeast Missouri State University Dean of the College of Health and Human Services, Dr. Morris Jenkins, has some ideas on how we can all work together to change that. Welcome, Dr. Jenkins.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. So I did a little research on you, and you have served with a number of organizations, including the NAACP, the Restorative Justice Prison Project of the Toledo, Ohio Correctional Institution. You've co-authored articles regarding how the justice system is perceived by members of the Black community. So let's just dive right into it. I mean, what exactly do you feel is the perception of minority youth of both the criminal and the civil justice system?
There's a level of distrust that's occurring for both justice systems, the criminal justice system as well as the civil justice system. And there are elements of what they call institutional racism still involved in our society, and it impacts the perception and impacts the outcomes that occur in both the criminal and civil justice systems.
Well, and our generation, because we're pretty close in age, we've worked very hard to try to overcome some of those barriers, but there's still pushback from certain areas of the country, certain people. How are we supposed to work on this? How do we attract the minority youth of today to both of those systems?
It's a process that's going to have to occur on varying levels. The communities should be involved with, youth development, for lack of a better term, and work with not only young youth of color, but youth in general, to get them involved in what we would call civic engagement, get them to understand the system, get them to buy into it to a certain degree, and then it's up to us in higher education to educate the people who are going to be working for the system on multicultural issues, racial tolerance issues, all types of tolerance issues. So that's the roles that I see so far.
So you being in higher education, what do you see as the greatest barrier that you have to overcome when you're talking with your students about these types of issues, about reaching the young people of America? What are they fighting right there in the streets that makes it hard? It's
the experiences of individuals. We come from varying backgrounds. When somebody goes into criminal justice or social work or even nursing, you have individuals in this geographic location coming from rural areas. Others are coming from major metropolitan areas, and others from the suburbs. And those experiences differ depending upon one's culture. And that's the major barrier. We're not talking to one another about these issues because we tend to think that if you're talking about race and racism, you get this defensive posture, and it's very uncomfortable. But it's up to us as professors and to me as an administrator now to really push the issue and get that conversation started. So it's got to occur on varying levels. And then the second thing is to get youth of color, because they're underrepresented in law, in the justice systems, to be a part of it, to understand that they can be the prosecutors, the defense lawyers, the plaintiffs' lawyers, police officers, parole and probation, working in the prisons. So that's another avenue we got to work on.
What, speaking of education, what barriers do you see them still facing in today's American education system?
Oh, it's many. But I think the one major one is to keep boys interested in education and keep young ladies interested in science and technology, because somewhere around the 3rd grade, things happen. You know, the 3rd grade is the point where we determine whether a youth is going to be in the system, the criminal justice system, or will that youth go another avenue. So those are a lot of issues that they're confronted with. And then the teachers, we have to get more African American, Latino, Asian, and poor individuals to become teachers, to serve as not only their teachers, but to serve as role models.
As a member of the community, how would you recommend that someone like me, someone that's watching, how would you recommend that they get involved to help the minority youth get more involved in the justice system?
Oh man, you can you know, work with me and others in the department, but we're fortunate that we have a couple of individuals in this community that's very concerned with the same issues I'm concerned with. Chief Wes Blair he's opened the doors, and he's very honest about the system, and he takes a very critical look at it, as well as Judge Limbaugh, who wants to open up his courts so that we can get young people interested in it. So I think as a community member, maybe we can open the doors to not only the things in the justice system, but also businesses, nonprofit agencies, the religious community. There are many, many avenues where we can work on a lot of these issues. And of course, don't be afraid to be uncomfortable.
No, that is absolutely it. Dr. Jenkins, thank you, sir. Thank you so much for coming in. We've been talking today with Dean of the College of Health and Human Services, Dr. Morris Jenkins. And thank you for joining us for Cape Chronicle. The program is a collaboration between the Department of Mass Media at Southeast Missouri State University, the City of Cape Girardeau, and River Radio Group, comprised of 93.9 The River, K103, KZIM, KSIM, Real Rock, and SEMO ESPN. Our executive producer is Dr. Jim Dufek. I'm Audrey Kane. Thank you so much for watching.